going to start with our extinction segment today. And we have a couple things to say, especially about what we said last time about the dinosaurs, whether birds are dinosaurs. Some people think they are, and so we're going to answer that question today. But let's begin here with something else first, and this is the state of the union. We'll call it the state of the world. Okay, it's the state of the world, right? And here it is, just a sample. Battle lines: Israel rejects ceasefire. How Iranian drones changed warfare, and what's going wrong for China's economy. And this is out of the Telegraph in Great Britain. England, right? Across the world, from Europe to Asia, from the Americas to the Middle East, tensions are rising between nation states as the traditional alliances and alignments evolve in the 21st century. 2024 sees war in Europe and Israel and elections in major economies from the US and the UK to Taiwan. Insurgencies flare in Yemen and Burma, tensions that escalate in East Africa, and all around the world the international security architecture buckles under increasing pressure. Wars and tensions, fault lines grind and slip in an increasingly dangerous and confusing multipolar world. I think that's a pretty good summary, okay, of the state of the world. And it's a little disheartening, but I think it was predictable that, that we would end up like this. We're getting to the point where there's only, three empires on planet Earth, or three real powers out there: Russia, China, and the United States, together with its allies, right? And those three groups, actually it's two groups, you could say the U.S. and its allies against Russia, China, together, and maybe tomorrow with the Arabs all against the U.S. and its allies. So it's a maybe bipolar world, and I think that was inevitable to some degree because, again, I don't think any empire is going to conquer the whole planet. At some point, there either is going to be war, or I think there is going to be war. I don't think you're going to avoid it because the interests of one mafia encroach on the interests of another mafia. And I don't think that's avoidable. Again, that's my take on that. I think that was predictable, and that's why I think we're getting we're living in a dangerous world, but we're getting to the point where, extinction is around the corner. We're on the last stretch. How long it's going to last, I don't know. Will I see it? I don't know. I'm in my 70s. Maybe I won't see it. I don't know. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. We'll find out, right? But I think it's very close. That's the way I look at it. Okay, just an opinion. Okay, what's the mechanism for the extinction of man? The collapse of the global economy. Does that include wars? Of course it does. It has to include wars because there's a fight for resources or for expanding the interests of one mafia at the expense of another. That's what it's all about. And at some point, the economy, the global economy collapses. We cannot grow economically, right? Humans cannot grow economically. Their economy cannot grow forever. At some point it stops. And there was a book saying, grow or die. And I think that's more or less summarizes it. Yeah, we either grow or we die. And if the global economy cannot grow, it will die. What is the death? Extinction. Okay, and here's another take on that. Similar, right? Powell, who's Federal Reserve chief there, says the U.S. federal government is on an unsustainable path, and that just means that the debt is growing faster than the economy. So it is unsustainable. I don't think that's at all controversial, Powell said when asked if the national debt is a danger to the economy. Yeah, it is a danger to the economy, and the danger to the economy is the danger to humans, because once the economy is gone, we're all dead, okay? And the important thing here is that the United States is too big to fail. The United States, if you get little countries out there, maybe Argentina, with Milei, Uganda, or who knows, Romania, it doesn't matter. Someone will bail them out. No one bails the United States out except the Klingons, maybe, coming down here and giving us a hand. The United States is where the buck stops. The United States too big to fail. It says here the U.S. national debt topped $34 trillion for the first time ever in early January, just over 3 months after what? Surpassing the $33 trillion mark. Okay, according to data released, right? And so what's happening? We're growing $1 trillion per month. So, that's no laughing matter. It really ain't. But the debt is growing by the trillions, and I don't think we're producing by the trillions. So all we're doing is producing money to cover the debt, and that's exceeding the production. And I don't think that's sustainable. So I agree with Powell. It's unsustainable. But I'm not sure how they can reverse course. I really don't. No magic trick in economics as far as that's concerned. Congress has punted on spending deadlines 3 times since the end of September, okay? And under the latest stopgap measure passed in January, funding for 4 federal agencies will expire on March 1st. Funding for the rest of the government is set to run out on March 8th. Yeah, and these are constant deadlines. Every month it looks like they have to reevaluate, and Congress has to decide whether they're going to print more money to cover the debt hole. And all that does is weaken the real value of worker salaries. They always lag behind. So little by little, the worker, the proletarian, the person who depends on a salary, that person falls behind and behind and behind. And, today, even 2 salaries, wife and husband, I don't think even they can make it to the end of the month or barely make it, So I don't know where that's going to end. At some point, that's going to have an effect, especially when all these countries are depending on the United States. They're clinging on to the United States, and they're doing a lot worse. In other countries, like, for example, Argentina is a good example. The workers can barely make it to the end of the month. And so there's going to be riots over there before they reach the United States. But the only way they're going to get out of the mess is if the United States, the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, one of those organizations, helps them out, meaning they have to produce more money, meaning they devalue the coin even further. And so I think it's an unsustainable process. Okay, and so at some point the global economy will crash, and it will not be a depression. It will be extinction. Okay, last week I talked about this issue, which is of interest to me, and it's a fellow says dinosaurs didn't go extinct. Why? Because he says the birds are dinosaurs and they're still around. Okay, so that's his take on that. What do I have to say about that? Well, here it is. This is more or less what I have to say. I said that if you look up the word bird, right, it says that they were archosaurs. It says, archosaurs is a clade of sauropsid tetrapods, with birds and crocodiles being the only living representatives. So the fact that, we have birds and also crocodiles for that matter means that the archosaurs never disappeared. And that's kind of strange because the Triassic is known as the age of archosaurs, and they went extinct. And this all wants you to believe that birds and crocodiles are still alive, meaning the archosaurs are still alive. They never became extinct. And it turns out that the birds were also dinosaurs, apparently, or, part of the dinosaur clade or order or whatever. And it turns out that, that means that the dinosaurs didn't go extinct. So let's see, we don't have archosaurs, they never went extinct. The dinosaurs never went extinct. And he's going to make a case that even the synapsids never went extinct. So I guess no animal ever went extinct. No, we can't talk about extinction now because no animal, no big grouping of animals ever went extinct. There have been no mass extinctions. Okay, so that's the issue here. Okay, let's see what he's got to say. Okay, he says, Wikipedia entries, you are wrong about birds. That's what he's saying to me. About this entry, you say, here it says that they, the birds, right, were not dinosaurs. They were archosaurs, right? That's what I just showed, the fact that you look up the word birds and it says they were archosaurs. You look at the word archosaur and it includes the birds. And the archosaurs died at the end of the Triassic. I mean, that's what we all thought, right? Now this fellow says, no, they didn't die. The archosaurs are still around and so are the dinos, right? And so it says, but the entry does not say the birds are not dinosaurs, okay? It says that the birds are archosaurs. And I guess it's terrible when you have to explain a joke to someone, Yes, I did say that on purpose because it's irrational to say that the dinosaurs are still around. So I said, well, so I was really playing with it and saying, look, it says here, just acting dumb here, right, that the birds are archosaurs. You say they're dinosaurs, but, here it says that they're archosaurs. What are they? Are they archosaurs or dinosaurs? He says, well, they're kind of both, That's his answer. And so this is what I say here. I say, in fact, he repeats what I say. And it says, you continue. They're not saying that they were not dinosaurs, but that they're archosaurs. Right, so I did clarify that. And I don't know why he had to raise the fact that I said that they were not dinosaurs. I said first, they're not dinosaurs, then I corrected on purpose always, saying, well, they're both. But what's the point? The point here is that we're not talking about clades. We're not talking about scientific, precise scientific definitions of these animals. What we're talking about is extinction. And this doesn't go through his mind. He doesn't understand that this has to do with extinction and not with the names of animals, the clades and the nomenclature for all these different kinds of groupings, right? That's the issue. And I said it last time, but he didn't understand it. So here we have to rehash what happened, okay? And so he says, archosaurs includes birds. Yeah. Birds are dinosaurs. Yeah. They're both. So are birds dinosaurs or are they archosaurs, I ask, right? And it says the answer to this question is that birds are archosaurs and that they are dinosaurs. There is no contradiction here. And again, he missed the point completely. He missed the joke. He still doesn't understand the joke, I guess. It's terrible when you have to explain a joke. It's not as funny, So what does he say? His conclusion is, yes, some dinosaurs are extinct. But the fact that many species of dinosaurs are extinct does not obviously imply that all dinosaurs are extinct. Okay? Yes, some synapsids are extinct, but this fact is perfectly consistent with the fact that there are synapsids that are not extinct. Synapsids like Homo sapiens. Okay? Okay? So he continues here one more. Let me show this before I answer. And he says, now look at their entry for, meaning the Wikipedia entry for synapsids. It says, the synapsids were the dominant land animals in the late Paleozoic. The only group that survived into the Cenozoic are mammals. Mammals are a group of synapsids. Okay, yeah, okay. And since humans are mammals, humans are synapsids. Since my mother is human, she is a synapsid. Okay, so his mother is a synapsid. I was not aware of that synapsids were still around today. So what are we talking about? You can see because of his way of confronting this problem, he's going to run into trouble no matter what he says. Okay, and that's why we have to keep the specific categories, the clades, what they study in biology and what they study in paleontology has nothing to do, in detail, has nothing to do with the question. Are humans synapsids? Irrelevant question. Are birds dinosaurs? Irrelevant question. Okay? None of those questions have anything to do with the issue that we have before us. Okay? What we have before us is we have an extinction 65 million years ago, and at the end of the Cretaceous, and we say that the dinosaurs became extinct. That's what we say. And you cannot say, well, the birds survived. Yeah, other animals survived as well. Mammals survived, for example. The issue is we call that extinction a dinosaur extinction because we need to talk about extinction, not about the dinos. Okay, and the same for the Triassic archosaurs. What died at the end of the Triassic were the archosaurs. We killed them all, 150% of them, all of them. And you can't say, well, some survived because they're over here today. Yeah, we called it Triassic extinction. In order to refer to the extinction, we say it's an archosaur extinction. The other one is a dinosaur extinction. Okay, and you have the Jurassic dinosaurs and you have the Cretaceous dinosaurs. But we do not include birds in that grouping because, the birds do not fit in the category of the land dinosaurs that we're talking about when we talk about extinction. That's the issue. Otherwise, this fellow is coming up with different categories. He invented essentially two extra categories. Those are the other dinosaurs, and the birds are these dinosaurs. So we have the those and the these. Okay, and so we cannot talk in that way about extinction. We cannot say, oh, those dinosaurs became extinct, but not these dinosaurs, right? I can't imagine this guy calling the cops one day and saying, calling them to house. Cops come in there and say, what happened, sir? Well, what happened is, the dinosaurs are not extinct. Oh, the dinosaurs are not, you see, okay, and says, yeah, a couple of dinosaurs were flying around my house last night. I see. And one of them shot through my chimney and messed up my fireplace here. I see, okay, well, sir, don't worry, we just called some men. They're going to come here in white jackets and they're going to take you to a nice place that has flowers and padded walls and, you'll be okay over there. Yeah, you cannot talk in the context of the Cretaceous extinction about birds, okay? We use the word bird to refer to the birds that survived and went into the quaternary. And those that died, we call them dinosaurs, okay? And so we're referring to that context. That's the context. Dinosaurs died at the 65 million years ago at the end of the Cretaceous. And so all these little categories, whether they belong to synapsids or to Triassic archosaurs or to dinosaurs, whether the birds are here and the crocodiles are over there, it's irrelevant. Irrelevant to the question we're dealing with here. We're dealing with extinction, not with animals. Okay? That's the best way I can put it. So that you focus on extinction, on the word extinction, not the word bird and dinosaurs and archosaurs. And I don't know how else to put that. If you don't understand it, well, sorry. It's irrational to say that the dinosaurs did not become extinct 65 million years ago because the birds are still around flying around your chimney. Okay, so this is what he's got. He says those theropods became extinct, and theropods were like the T-Rexes. Those are known as theropods, right? And he's talking about those theropods and these theropods. The birds are theropods, but it turns out that the triceratopses, they don't fit under theropods. They were, as you see, ornithischia. Let's see if I can pronounce that. Ornithischia. Okay, ornithischia. And that means that they have a bird hip. So even though the Triceratops had features of birds, they're not considered theropods, but the birds are considered theropods and not the other grouping. And so, again, all these details have nothing to do with the question that we have before us, which is the extinction of the dinosaurs at the end of the Cretaceous. Okay, so T-Rex is a theropod, but Triceratops is not. Okay, and that's the context. It's the context that we're talking about, and I don't know if it's sunk in this individual's mind. Okay, here I showed you this the other day again. The Permian, the first half was the age of pelycosaurs. They were all synapsids, all these animals. And at the end of the Permian, which is at the end of the age of therapsids, what died were all the synapsids. We say that what died were all the synapsids, 150, 175% of them, all of them. Okay. Now, are mammals descended from the synapsid? Yeah. We're also descended from some amphibian that was in the Carboniferous, and we're likely, and we can probably trace our lineage all the way to the Cambrian. Okay, so does that mean that the fish of the Devonian did not die because the placoderms they didn't die because we're still around and we descend from them? So there was never an extinction in the Devonian. We descend from the synapsids of the Permian, and so the synapsids in the Permian didn't die because we're still around. So how are you going to talk about it if you're going to be so specific with the language? Obviously, the language, the precise language of that they use in paleontology has no bearing on the question when we're talking about extinction. That's the issue. And I don't know how else to reinforce that. Okay, and here's another one that I showed the other day. You have the Jurassic dinosaurs. They were a little different than the ones that came out in the Cretaceous. There were more long necks in the Jurassic, even though there were a couple long necks also in the Cretaceous. But they were primarily, you can see that just morphologically they were different. Okay, so there was an extinction at the end of the Jurassic, and there was another one at the end of the Cretaceous of different kinds of dinosaurs. Okay, but we put all these in the same bag and call them dinosaurs. Okay. Do you see any birds in there? No, you won't see any birds in there because we don't consider birds dinosaurs for the purposes of extinction. Okay, we say that the land dinosaurs, the terrestrial dinosaurs, were the ones who went extinct. There were no aquatic dinosaurs. All those aquatic that many people confuse with dinosaurs, they were reptiles, and there were also flying reptiles. All those died as well, 100% of them. There are no more flying reptiles, no more aquatic reptiles today. Okay, those died at the end of the Cretaceous. And so we have the flying and swimming reptiles, and we have the terrestrial dinosaurs. Those went extinct. That's the only way we can talk about it. And if we put the word bird in there, we just mess things up. We can't use the word bird together with the word extinction of the dinosaurs. It's just a different context. Okay, and how did they die at the end of the Cretaceous? Well, here you have a note that I found in Britannica. The evolution of cycadioids seemed to have paralleled the rise and fall of the dinosaurs. Exactly. It was food that killed all the dinosaurs. It was the last bit that killed them. There was already a decline in species diversity, but primarily there you have the answer to the question of extinction. Okay, when the cycadioids disappeared, the dinosaurs disappeared. Okay, the problem here is that paleontologists, many of them believe that it's a food-related issue, but the question is, why did the food disappear? And so they come up with all these catastrophes. Many of them come up with catastrophes to explain the sudden disappearance of food when we don't need any catastrophe. All food will eventually disappear for every type of animal that's ever lived. Food, the plants don't last forever. They're replaced by other plants, and the animals that have become used to those plants, that develop some kind of symbiotic relationship with them, eat and then poop and then eat and poop, and they pollinate and so on. Well, when that process comes to an end, the plants disappeared, so do the animals that depended on that food. They cannot switch overnight and say, look, I'm a rabbit, I eat lettuce, but there's no lettuce, I'll eat just pine trees. No, pine leaves or whatever. No, you can't. Rabbits don't eat pine leaves. They cannot switch overnight from lettuce to pine leaves. Okay? And so this is where people make the mistake. They think animals, including us, right, that we could switch food anytime we want. Oh, we can't eat. There's no more lettuce, no more tomatoes, no more peaches, no problem. I'll just eat pine leaves. No, it doesn't work that way. Okay? And you can't eat, ferns, for example. They're poisonous. So we cannot switch overnight And that's what happened to all these animals. When the food started to disappear, when their islands began to shrink over the millions of years, the last few million years, their jungles, their forests shrunk, partly pushed inwards by the growing vegetation that was to feed the next generation of animals. Okay, so I call it the shrinking island because here you find. Let's talk about the dinosaurs. Dinosaurs they're in heaven. You know, they're in this Eden, and they have all the food they want, and so they're eating cycadioids every day. They just eat, munch, no problem. They reproduce, but it turns out that the angiosperms, they're growing all around and squatting the land and taking over land that was previously occupied by conifers such as cycads and cycadioids, ginkgos, and so on. And so what's the problem? The problem is that now those animals that depended on that source of food find less and less food, even though they have multiplied in numbers. And whereas you got all these tiny little animals called mammals, and they're growing with a new vegetation. And so what happens is the island is shrinking on the dinos. At some point, there's a critical point where that system collapses, the dinosaurs die, and now the little animals, can expand together with the angiosperms first, and second, they can radiate, they can multiply and become bigger and become the animals that we have today. That's the process that I'm saying for extinction. That's why the only thing you have to explain in the world of extinction is selectivity. How does Mother Nature ensure that these groups of animals, the old ones, especially chronologically older, animals disappeared, and the new generation continues as if nothing happened? Well, they belong to two different food chains. That's the issue. And so one food chain goes away and the other one continues. That's why a mass extinction is the disappearance of a food chain. It's a food issue. And why does the food disappear? It disappears because food, plants don't last forever. They have their cycles too. And when the plant has to go because it's been around for too long, they lost their genetic diversity, they're squashed by more vibrant, more modern plants that are, grow faster and squat the land. And so they're choked. Their populations are choked. And any animal that depended on that source of food goes with it. That's the mechanism we're proposing. Okay, here's a graph that I like to show all the time. It's an important one because it synthesizes why the dinosaurs disappeared. And here you have it. No asteroid, no volcanoes, no climate change, no diseases, no egg predation, none of that nonsense. What is it? Supernovas. No, here you see it. Here you see what happened to these animals. Okay, and it is that the blue there that you see, the angiosperms, over the last 3/4 of the Cretaceous, they took over the land. Number of species multiplied, and I'm sure the number of plants as well multiplied for angiosperms, and they squatted the land, and they squashed out. They squashed out the cycads, ferns, and other conifers, and so on. So this is what happened. There you see it. Who grew with the blue ones? The mammals. We are angiosperm eaters. We do not eat cycads. We do not eat ferns or conifers of any kind, ginkgos or cycadioids or any of those. So that's what happened. And this graph was made after a 4-year study by a group, that looked at all the data from different papers. And so after a 4-year study, they were able to concoct this graph. So this graph is not mine. I just borrowed it so that I can make my point. And the point is that angiosperms pushed the conifers out. What died at the end of the Cretaceous were the conifers. And again, this person might say, "Oh, but the conifers are still around." Yeah, but they're not dominant anymore. What's dominant on the planet today are angiosperms. So we just say the conifers died, or if you prefer, the cycadioids or the cycads or the ginkgo bilobas, and any of those died. Okay, something died, some plant died at the end of the Cretaceous. And we call them cycads, cycadioids. You can refer to them as conifers. Does that mean all conifers disappeared? No, it means that they no longer reigned. They were taken over. A new plant became the ruler of the planet, and those were the angiosperms. And the dinosaurs did not eat angiosperms. There's a couple of papers out there that argue that they did. There could have been an exception. I'm not going to dispute that, but 99% of the dinosaurs ate conifers, specifically cycads and cycadioids. And what happened is those forests, those jungles disappeared towards the end of the Cretaceous. And that's when all the herbivores that depended on that source of food disappeared with it. And right after, all the theropods, the big guys, the T-Rexes and so on, the big dinosaurs, the carnivores, they disappeared with them. So it's a food issue. And that's why in order to talk intelligently, we cannot confuse birds with dinosaurs when we're talking about extinction, especially 65 million years ago. The word bird should not be included in there at all. Okay? But if people want to say, hey, the birds are still flying around, the dinosaurs are still flying around my house, well, yeah, go ahead. I mean, I hope they treat you nice at the funny farm. Okay, here you see again, just another graph here. Shows you what happened in each era, and they're all related to food. You got the non-vasculars and early vasculars in the Devonian and Carboniferous. Then you go into the seed fern region where you have the first half. In the Permian, there you see what disappeared were the glossopterids, and at the end of the Triassic, what disappeared were the dicroidiums. Glossopterids and dicroidiums are both seed ferns. We have no seed ferns today. They all died at the end of the Triassic. And again, the synapsids depended on glossopterids, and the archosaurs depended on dicroidiums. When if you look at the age of the Triassic, that whole period, dicroidiums you can call it the age of dicroidiums. They started with the Triassic, they ended with the Triassic. Guess what? The archosaurs ate? Well, they ate dicroidiums. And I'm sure birds don't eat dicroidiums. Okay? And likewise, humans don't eat glossopterids. Okay? If they were still around, they would not be able to eat those seed ferns. So yeah, you can divide the cake any way you want. In the case of when you go into the details of how you're going to classify animals and plants, you can go into a lot of detail, and it depends on how you cut the cake. Are you going to decide to name animals according to what they eat? Are you going to decide according to their morphology, their bones? Or are you going to decide it on the basis of clades, cladistic analysis? Who was my father? Who was my grandfather? There's many ways of classifying families of animals, and that's why you have all these fights in paleontology, because that guy sees some features that this guy doesn't care about, and vice versa. And so each one has this classification system that they're developing still, even to this day, as more samples come out of the ground. And so, we don't worry about that when we talk about extinction. When we talk about extinction, it's very clear. Synapsids died at the end of the Permian, archosaurs at the end of the Triassic, and dinosaurs, there were two extinctions. One, which was, we can say that also about the Permian for that matter. You can say the pelycosaurs died at the end of the Olsen extinction, which is midway into the Permian. And then what continued were another type of synapsids. They were known as therapsids in the case of the carnivores, and maybe pariasaurs is an example of the herbivores. Okay, so there were two types of synapsids during the whole Permian period. Triassic, archosaurs. Dinosaurs, two extinctions, one Jurassic, one Cretaceous. We call those terrestrial animals, big animals that ruled the planet. We call those dinosaurs. We don't call birds dinosaurs in that context. Okay? Irrelevant if birds descended or a parallel line of dinosaurs. Again, birds don't eat They neither eat ferns, nor do they eat conifers of any kind. And so, even if I'm sure if we bring the cycadioids back to life, I think the birds would not eat them. And so, if we classify animals by what they ate, we're going to eliminate completely birds from the dinosaur lineage. So again, it depends on how you want to cut the cake, where vertically or horizontally.